Alright, so now that Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 2 is officially released, and we're now going into spoiler territory, going over my overall thoughts on the second part, of course giving my spoiler thoughts, if you will, and going over that ending and that massive cliffhanger as to what happens now moving forward, especially for Miyagi-Do and what the show's endgame is, especially for our main characters and the students, and especially for how this show will end, and that's what we're diving into all in this video. And so if you're new, then be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so much on any future vids. But now let's talk about it. And now, with the second part of the final season, we're in Barcelona for the senseis Taigai. And now, I think this is what happened at the end of part 1 when they arrived there. But then we saw that they were in the tournament, but then we start to realize in the final moments of part 1 with Tori that has joined the Cobra Kai and increased his side, and now that with Miyagi-Do is going to compete against Cobra Kai, especially with Tori, and now being suddenly their enemy. But I think we'll probably open this second part. I think that this is like when they arrive at the tournament, like especially in Barcelona when they check into their hotel, and you know there's like drama and conflict between Daniel and Johnny for how they're gonna take this, like especially as like Johnny can handle the students the way that he can by teaching them like his ways on how to win the senseis Taigai, but then with Daniel, as I'm gonna let Johnny do all of that, and plus doing everything that Daniel teach the students of Miyagi-Do to compete in this tournament. And I especially how I liked like all this like drama and how darker this second part got. But I just definitely feel like it had its flaws and issues along the way. I mean, of course, we get like a tournament action, especially that's how the second part opened up, especially with the tournament and all of the students competing, and even with all of the dojos competing in this tournament, and that is for Miyagi-Do, Cobra Kai, the Iron Dragons, and with every other dojo competing from all around the world. And even though specifically in Cobra Kai we get introduced to a character named Quan, and I think that this guy is like probably the main bad antagonist that we're going to see in this final season, especially for how his arc unfolds, especially with Kreese that is now in control of Cobra Kai ever since he took it away from Johnny. Now, and even with Daniel, Johnny, and the rest of the students, specifically for Miyagi-Do, for how they're going to win this tournament, because this is like one of the biggest tournaments in Barcelona, and I think anything can happen. And now, especially on the students' perspective for the tournament of what students that they're going up against, so especially with the drama that I was really invested in, specifically with Tori and Robbie, because we all know that with Tori that joined Kreese's side and Cobra Kai, and mainly because of the death of her mom in part 1, that like caused her to be fueled with anger and to possibly switch over to the dark side, so especially like Cobra Kai, and even with Robbie that like could have told her to come to him or Sam, but then like Toei didn't think about it in the first place, but then he apologized way too late, and especially as they're at the tournament. And I think that this is what caused them to put their relationship on pause, and I think I don't know if how this is going to get resolved, especially towards like the end of the show. I think, I mean, for what I'm like thinking, like especially with the drama and conflict coming from our students with Miyagi-Do, and even for what they're up against, I think it is so chilling. Also, I want to add on top of with all the relationships and conflict that go down, and even with our main guys, Hawk and Dimitri, and especially as they're like a foreign country of Barcelona, I mean, anything could possibly happen. But even I want to point out with Quan and Tori, because I think like they were about to hook up, but then like Tori denied, and especially doing this in front of Robbie, because with Quan that definitely wants to get up the rages of Miyagi-Do, and so supposedly have this inner conflict between the two, and that stuff that I was really invested, especially with all that drama. And now it's time to get into the latter half of part 2. And now, especially with the tournament perspective and the way that it goes down, especially with the fight scenes and the choreography, it is absolutely brutal with the stunts pulled off. And I mean, like, there's like a whole bunch of like awesome, like spectacular stuff, especially like these fights, or like unlike anything that we've ever seen at the entire show with the previous seasons. But then let's move on to the Mr. Miyagi stuff, and that's because with Daniel that found his headband at the end of part 1 that revealed that Mr. Miyagi competed in the Segai Taikai, but then we never found out why, and that's because when Daniel receives a letter at the front desk to meet an unknown person, like someone that who we thought must have known Mr. Miyagi, but then like Johnny told him to never come back, and that involved the tournament without Daniel's involvement and leaving Johnny in charge. But then he suddenly stumbles upon this castle location that with the car driver had said that no tourists ever visit here. That results in him it being kidnapped. But it was actually revealed it was a Silver that staged this whole kidnapping that had him locked up in a cage and fighting his goons. And one of them had a Cobra Kai tattoo on his arm. And I'm also thinking like, what is Silver's involvement with this, especially after what happened at the end of season 5 when he got arrested, and how did he escape from prison, and even with the way that they revealed his return, it is so amazing, especially with him with him sitting in a hot tub, like smoking a cigar, and Daniel looking in shock. And I think it is just crazy for how Silver did all this. And also for why I think Silver did all this, and that's because he wanted his dojo to possibly win in the tournament. But even with Kreese, what he's done with Cobra Kai, he obviously wants to cheat, especially with his ways and all the ways of cheating. And I think that's possibly what's about to happen, because I think like at the end of the season, like I'm pretty sure what is going to happen between these two senseis that drove these dojos into angry ways. And now I want to get into the final moments of the second part of the final season, and that's with Daniel discovering the reason why Mr. Miyagi competed in the Segai Taikai, but with Mr. Miyagi that never brought up his past in front of Daniel in the Karate Kid films, and that is with this unexpected twist that came along, is that he actually killed his opponent in the tournament a long time ago, and that's why with Silver that handed Daniel and that like a letter, so sort of like a document, and that was from the old days of the tournament when he actually fought. But no, especially as I love this emotional moment, especially with the students and even with Hawk and Dimitri that made up because of their drama, and even when now calling themselves brothers, and now with Miguel along with it as well. And then especially of where like the future holds with these students and when they're sent off could be at the end of the show, and what's the end game for it. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. And even with Daniel and Johnny that are so impressed that their students are ready to fight in the tournament, and that like they are happy, and even though they don't know for what's going to come next between all of them. But now as we see the tournament continue, but then especially something unexpected happens, and that is like with the announcer that gets knocked out by another sensei from his dojo that was actually banned from the tournament because they used drugs to help his students fight in the tournament, so that was actually fake. But then soon after that, it turns it into this tournament drill and war brawl between every single dojo and their students, and it goes so hard. And I can't even tell you that this was possibly the best fight sequence ever pulled off in this series, because they were seriously not holding back with the final season, because especially as this reminds me a lot of the school fight that happened at the end of season 2, which resulted in a lot of conflict, and also with Miguel's accident. But even like with everyone fighting and goes brutal from there on out, especially with Kreese getting involved with the knife that we see here, and it's especially when that knife was going to be useful in the tournament and within this brawl, and that was actually going to fight Silver, and especially with this fight that we see here between Silver and Kreese, and we all thought like Kreese was gonna bring his knife to possibly defeat or to even kill Silver, but I do not think that was gonna be possible. But then he suddenly loses his knife on the floor mat, and that was because he was fighting someone and must got loose and dropped. But then it gets in the hands of Quan, and we all know where that ended up for his character. And that's what I'll get into now. And so especially with the knife that was in the hands of Quan, that he was actually fighting Axel, but then it ended up with his on-screen death. And let me tell you, with the most shocking cliffhanger I have ever seen in this show, especially for Rudley and the second part, and with everyone being in shock that he actually stabbed himself, and now he's dead. And now with Daniel that turned him over, it was the blood all over the mat, and it was everyone looking at shock, because especially with the tournament that was broadcasted to the entire world because of Silver, and now with everyone at home watching, including for the friends at home in the San Fernando Valley watching, that someone was actually killed in the Sagai Taikai, but then after that the camera cuts to black. And now I'm thinking, it's like, oh, what's going to happen now with someone that was killed? Because I think that either the tournament will continue or it will end forever. And what does the future hold in store for these characters that we really don't know of? And also, for what I found really insane about this tournament brawl is that it gets so crazy that we see like people getting knocked out, especially for a cameraman that actually gets knocked over by Quan, who is like fighting someone. But even a cameraman getting hurt and knocked out, that goes to show you how crazy and insane that it was. But even compared to the school fight scene that we saw, especially with this brawl, like there was a violence, but even with the tournament brawl, that they went so hard, and to even believe that this was so violent, that this brawl happened at an actual tournament. And now I think with my predictions for how this show will end, especially as it was announced that we are getting the final episodes of Cobra Kai on February 13th, 2025. So that means on that date is when the show officially ends. And I think from what's about to happen, especially with the tournament, the dojos and the students involved, and I think like it might continue. I think it will have like so many consequences, like especially as there's going to be conflict from the world, as this tournament was broadcasted on live television, that everyone saw it live with a person like being killed. But I think like Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, where will they end up after this tournament, especially for how our main characters, the students, will get their send-off. I think that's a question that will have to be answered once we get into the final episodes, and for what the final moment of part 3 will even be like. And I'm expecting some very like downtown like action fight scenes to be involved, because I think there's no time to waste, and I think we are definitely in for a treat for part 3 of what these final episodes are going to deliver. And bring me part 3 already. I am so excited for how the show is going to end, the show that we all love so much, especially with Cobra Kai as a whole. But that's going to do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what your thoughts on part 2 of Cobra Kai, the final season, especially with the ending, that cliffhanger, and what predictions do you have for part 3, and how do you think the show will end, and what your thoughts on the entire show? Just let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to know about future videos. Also follow all my social medias over linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.